Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
And welcome everybody to another episode of the, I guess we're calling these extra shows for the Daily Gun Show podcast, but really they're interviews with Second Amendment advocates. And tonight we've got Cheryl Todd from Gun Freedom Radio, from Arizona Firearms, from Pot of Gold Auctions, and many other hats. We've got her for an hour tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for not only having me on this show, but for everything you do. I don't know how you have the time and energy to wear all the hats you wear, but thank you so much for everything you do. It's so important.
Well, appreciate it. And my Patreons allow me to do that, so thanks to them. Mm-hmm. So I try to focus this show kind of on the James Kalita format where we just let the guest talk. So I'll just kind of frame the show with, we're here to talk to Cheryl about what she's doing and who she is. And then we'll talk about why she's doing it, because I think that's an important thing for all of us to know, that there's just regular people. The largest 2A activists out there, just regular people that decided to do something. And then once we've hopefully got you inspired, we're going to give you some motivation by talking about how she does it, because we all have our own ways of using our technology and our platforms and our reach. And we'll try to address as much of that as possible. We have a little bit of a time constraint today, so it will be 1 hour. And with that, I'll again introduce Cheryl Todd. Take it away.
Well, again, thank you so much. And I do wear several hats. Of course, the most important hats are as being a wife, being a mom, being a grandma, being a good friend. You know, I think that those things are the core of who I am, and they keep me grounded and really focused on, you know, the why of what I do. And I know we're going to get to that, but those things are so important to making me really who I am and keeping my energy level up as I am wearing the hats of a business owner. My husband, Dan, and I do have a small retail gun shop, AZ Firearms, and we are the proverbial small corner mom and pop's shop in kind of a Mayberry-esque city of Avondale, Arizona. And it's just a wonderful city to be in. We have an amazing relationship with the city that allows us to really just kind of relax and focus on what we're doing. I know there's a lot of places that we might have opened up a shop, and then maybe the city's not wild about this whole gun thing, you know, or something like that. And that's not the situation with where we are, and it is invaluable. You can't possibly put a price on it to be able to have the kind of working relationship we do with the city that we're in. We also connected to, but separate from the gun shop, we have an auction house, Pot of Gold Estate Auctions. And so they are completely separate businesses, different staffs, different hours, but the two businesses work synergistically together. And so people come to the auction and they're like, hey, there's a gun shop next door. They come to the gun shop and they're like, hey, when's the next auction coming up? And they've really, as we've gone through the hills and valleys of the economic downturn of 2008, and then, you know, all the gun scare of the Obama years, to the apathy of definitely the first 12 months of Donald Trump's presidency, where everybody just kind of thought, oh, we don't have to care about our gun rights anymore because our president is, you know, quote unquote, a gun guy. one business has always been able to carry the other if there has been, you know, a slump on one side or the other. And so that has been a tremendous blessing. And our auctions are the first and third Tuesday of every month. They are online at our website, potofgoldestate.com. They are, we call it an estate auction. So it's really the better things that you would find in a person's home. So there's definitely guns, right? Ammo, coins, jewelry, antiques, collectibles, cars, boats, motorcycles, that kind of thing. And occasionally, probably 3 or 4 times a year, we have an all-day Saturday auction that we have maybe our more high-end items, a lot of coin op and those kind of auctions, that kind of thing, jukeboxes, pinball games, that kind of thing. And then, of course, we co-host our 2-hour radio show, Gun Freedom Radio. Of course, I better say that right. Gun Freedom Radio.
There you go.
And that has been quite a journey, and it continues to be quite a journey. You know, being a husband and wife, team, partners in everything. When it's good, it is amazing, and when it's bad, it's you know, challenging. But then you stick a microphone in front of a husband and wife team, and you know, it really could be like you know, witnessing a you know, family interaction or something like that. But it is really, really fun. First of all, Dan, I wish he was on this because he would instantly be teasing me about the fact that he barely gets a word in edgewise. So that's how, you know, you can't fight if I'm the only one talking on the air, right? But he brings so much to the show because he's got a great sense of humor. And of course, he sees things slightly different than I do. So that is always a huge plus. It gives you such a more rich experience than just, you know, my ideas or my take on things. And then he knows the equipment. And so I usually don't know that much about, you know, the new Glock that came out or the new, you know, Sig Sauer that came out or whatever. I know the issues, I know the politics, I know that sort of thing. And so what he's amazing at, I'm not good at. And what I have a strong background in, he doesn't necessarily. And that really plays itself out in all the areas of our lives and makes us really good partners at everything we do. We like to say that we have kind of pie charted our lives. And so you just slice that pie and, you know, one slice is not more important or more valuable than the other. It takes all of them to keep all of our plates spinning and effective in all the things that we do. And so it's just it's a wonderful life, really. It's a wonderful thing, this place that, and I always give God credit. We're Christians, and, you know, we really feel that God has given us the opportunities that we have in front of us and continues to open doors for us and bless the relationships that we have. And I think that's key to what we do as well, because then we can't ever get all puffed up on our own selves, right? Because we believe that it was a higher power, a higher calling that is driving this engine. And without that, without God, without that pushing, prodding, motivating factor, there's no way we'd be able to do all the things that we do. Did I lose you?
Nope. I didn't know when to take a break here. So
sorry.
Lost over the shop. So I've been to a couple of shops around the country, and you've got, I'd say, it's like a modern mercantile almost feel. You've got every square inch of the shop covered with stuff that's both interesting and for sale, which is neat. And it's the kind of shop where no matter how many times you visit, you're going to be able to find something new to see. But you've also got it staffed with good people. Like you say, you've got separate staffs for both of the businesses. So it's, you go in there, there's people there to meet and greet you. You've got gunsmiths on duty. So it's a full service shop. And like you say, the town is quaint. So it is, and it's an experience to check it out. So anybody that's going between California and Phoenix, we encourage you to check it out. If you're ever visiting Phoenix or even in Vegas, and you come down to Phoenix to check it out, it's really on the way now. The way that the 303 and everything, it kind of takes you right past your shop to go to Phoenix.
I really appreciate that. We take such pride in what we do, and we like to say that even though we are a retail store and we have to sell things in order to keep the lights on, we like to say we've never sold, in air quotes, a single item ever, because we hire people, our staff, they really have the heart of teachers, and so they are they help people to find the right tool for their lives. And what's so interesting is that sometimes what people find out is that that particular tool, a firearm, doesn't fit their life at this particular moment in their life. And that is okay. That is more than okay. Because if somebody is self-aware enough to realize that they're not going to be either dedicated to training, right, or comfortable handling a firearm, or maybe their home life doesn't really lend itself to having firearms at that particular time, that is going to keep everybody safe. And that is really the ultimate goal with these kind of tools anyway, is safety, right? So
And
I
peace
am.
of mind and security. So if the individual comes in with a incorrect sense of what a firearm is going to do for him, and you can set them straight, I'm just thinking of the outreach there. That's a person who's not in our culture, so they're going to go away from the experience at your shop then, and let people know that they weren't pressured or they weren't obligated. They didn't, the gun wasn't the answer to every question that they were asking. And they're going to be able to take that information, that's real information, out to other people who are all voters.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And that outreach piece is so, I think, important, because we really, those of us who own firearms, those of us who are advocates for the Constitution, whichever, if you have a specific lane of the Constitution, like for me, I tend to be a single issue voter. So that's the Second Amendment. And so that is my main lane. We should always consider ourselves as ambassadors, because we start thinking in our lingo, right? Our insider lingo. We talk inside baseball to one another, and we think that everybody gets it the same way that we do. We think that everybody understands our history the way that we do. I caught myself, actually, my friend caught me just yesterday. I said something about a big event that we had put on over this last weekend, and it was called the Celebrate and Protect the 2A event. And my friend said, 2A, what is that? And I was like, oh man, right? That's my bad. That's not any lack on his part. That's my bad. I should say very clearly what it is I'm trying to communicate and convey to people, so that they don't get in that awkward situation where now maybe they're embarrassed to want the clarification, because, especially this person I was talking to was a man. And so if a man feels like, oh, this woman, not in a sexist way, but it's just the way it is. Guys think they should know more about guns than the next female that they happen to encounter. That's been our tradition. That's been our culture for most of the time we've been a nation. That can be awkward and embarrassing for that person, and whatever gender they are, whatever sex they are. And me as a good ambassador, I need to be conscious about removing any and all of those kinds of barriers, so that that everybody feels like we're able to communicate well and get each other, even if we're not agreeing. Right? We had the Swedish press came out This past weekend, we had that celebrate the Second Amendment event at the Arizona State Capitol. And it was a wonderful event, very well attended. Everybody was very excited, had great speakers. And just so happens that the Swedish press was in our area. They're going all across the United States in the last and next several weeks filming a documentary. And so I don't know exactly how they found me, but they reached out and they said, hey, can we come to your store and talk to you about your shop? And then they realized that we were doing this event, and can we come out to the event and film that? And then they wanted to end up at the shooting range with us. And so, so that was a great opportunity. They came out, but you know, they're the media. So they want eyeballs on their page. They want clicks. And so the best way to do that is to give people something that's a little dramatic. And so the host of the show, he every once in a while he would try to lean into something and get us to maybe say something shocking or, you know, something like that. And for the most part, we're probably going to end up on the cutting room floor because we're just normal. You know, there's nothing really dramatic. But he obviously, either for the purpose of his show, right, or truly in his heart, does see firearms in a different light than I do. We, for the most part, we're coming at the issue from opposite sides, but that doesn't mean that we can't enjoy each other, can't have a productive conversation, and can't come away feeling enriched for the opportunity to share ideas with somebody who doesn't necessarily agree with us. I think that's a beautiful thing. I love for when that happens. Now, when it turns into a big flame fest, that's no fun for anybody, at least not for me, because I like to feel like I learned something. And when we're just yelling at each other, talking at each other, there's really no learning opportunity other than I don't want to talk to that person again because I come away drained and exhausted. It's like the energy vampires among us. I would prefer to come away feeling like, I'm going to chew on that for a while because maybe there was something there I hadn't thought of before, a new way of looking at something, or a new way for me to maybe communicate what I believe so that I could be more effective with the next person that I encounter.
Right, and those experiences are what lets us evolve our message so that it's most effective, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But I think that idea that you brought up about outreach and being good ambassadors is so key. And I just hope that everybody will keep that really in the forefront of your mind, if at all possible. And sometimes we approach things too much with the drumbeat of, but it's my rights, it's my rights, it's my rights. Heck yeah, it's our rights. Absolutely, it's our rights. But if you're not in tune with your audience, the other person you're talking to, you might be talking right past them. And again, who does that serve?
I'm going to ask a couple of questions that have been coming in from the people that are watching live. So thanks to the people that are watching and giving us thumbs and being part of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Woods from Washington is asking, is there a particular person you've modeled your radio cadence after? It worked well for you, and he's a huge fan and supporter.
Oh, well, thank you so much. My cadence, that's interesting. So my speaking style, is that the question?
Yeah, this is an elementary school teacher, for what it's worth.
Uh-huh.
Question.
That is so interesting. And no, I don't have a radio or media person that I have modeled that the way that I speak after. And it might make you laugh when I tell you, but my training, if there is such a thing for what I'm doing, because I didn't go to school for it, or don't have any kind of a media previous experience, but I was a worship leader in a Christian church for several years. And so a worship leader is basically in a contemporary setting rather than the traditional setting. So I grew up in church. So the traditional church is we had the choir robes and we sang in, very, operetta type of voices. And the contemporary setting is more like the music you hear when you turn on the radio, like K-Love. I guess that's maybe everywhere. And when I first was asked to do that, it was completely uncomfortable for me. It did not feel natural. It felt like I wasn't being worshipful. And so I had to figure out, how do I feel real in my own skin while I'm learning how to do this new thing? And I'd never prayed out loud before. That felt like, that's private. I don't do that in front of people. And be able to speak very clearly using very good diction and that sort of thing. Being able to communicate to people who might be sitting out there with their brows furrowed, like, what is this whole thing you're doing here? Or as I'm interacting with others who maybe feel like, oh, this whole God thing is a big sham, and I already don't like you the minute I hear you say you're a Christian. Just being mindful again that just because I believe something, just because I am thinking something, that doesn't mean that others are anywhere near on the same page and might immediately shut their ears the minute they know that I am a Christian, or the minute they know that I am a gun store owner, or the minute that they know that I am an advocate for the Constitution. I think that maybe is where that cadence comes from, where that the way that I explain things and try to come across, trying to view myself all the time as if I were, and I have several friends who are very, very liberal. Some are very liberal and love guns and their Second Amendment rights. I try to listen to myself through the way I think they would hear me. And I try to be sure that I am saying the truth as I know it, but in such a way that they could possibly hear me. And so where some shows have kind of an angry tone, or, the host comes across like, very, smarmy, or everybody's an idiot but me, I can't do that, because I would feel like I'm not being a good ambassador. I would feel like I'm insulting my friend, who maybe just comes at things from a different angle than I do. And so really that would be my training ground, is my experience moving into a space that I was very uncomfortable with, and then going to college at the same time. As an adult, I've just gotten my master's degree and I'm 51. So when I was doing the worship leading and getting my bachelor's degree, I was in probably my early 40s. And I was really aware that many of my classmates, they weren't about the God thing, and they absolutely weren't about the gun thing. And so I just was very, very aware of myself and the way that I came across and spoke. And I think it really served me well. But that was an interesting question. Thanks for letting me kind of unpack that out loud.
Right on. Yep. And Woods followed up with, thanks, Cheryl. I teach with a different cadence than my regular speech. It totally works. So I'm going to move on a little bit. You've talked about being an ambassador, and you talked a bit about the businesses that you're running. I know you started Arizona Firearms in 2003. Mm-hmm. When did you start Gun Freedom Radio? When did the podcast start?
So And the Arizona Firearms, there actually is an Arizona Firearms in a different city in Arizona, but we are AZ Firearms, and that is a super easy thing.
Okay.
And we actually trip over that ourselves sometimes because we get talking too fast. Our brains are running faster than our mouths, or vice versa. But I just want to clarify that they are great people, AZ Firearms, but that ain't us. We are Arizona Firearms is not us, AZ Firearms. So to answer your question about Gun Freedom Radio, it's really only about 4 years old. And we started it as about a 15-minute piece on somebody else's radio show on the local station in Phoenix. It was the news talk station, KTAR. There was on Saturdays a show called Get Outdoors with Mike Russell. And we were pals. We had met each other because he loves guns, and, he'd come to the shop a lot and that sort of thing. And so he said, I'm learning about guns. Dan is an expert in guns. Why don't we figure out a way that he can be, the gun guy for a 15-minute segment? And it just really kind of started that way. But because I'm the one that's like, the planner, I'm always like, making notes and sending emails and that sort of thing. By the time Saturday would roll around and we get into the studio, I don't know the equipment, but I know the issues. And so we'd show up, and instead of talking about guns themselves, we'd start talking about the issues. And so it just took a little bit of a different turn than what we originally thought. And it made me realize that you can't even scratch the surface in 15 minutes. And people were very engaged with the segment and hungry for information. That's when I realized what a starvation there is out there that people have for actual information without it being twisted and spun and colored in a certain way. They just want to know, the facts. And so actually what happened with the KTAR is that we had a conversation with them that we wanted to expand the 15 minutes. We wanted to make it either more on Mike Russell's show, or maybe have our own show. And that's when we could feel them backpedaling. And they were like, yeah, we don't really want a gun show on KTAR. And so we said, well, that's the direction that we are feeling called, we are feeling led, we are feeling driven to go in. And so we went over and talked to 960, the Patriot, which is on the AM dial in the Phoenix area. And they were just excited to welcome us in. And we felt like, oh my goodness, we're coming home practically. There was no hesitation at all about any of the topics we wanted to talk about. And so we had a great relationship with them for about a year or so. And the only reason we left them is because we realized that the reach on an AM station is really pretty small. Being on that AM FM dial, the plus of it is that we were really the only local talk show that dealt with the gun issues and the Second Amendment issues, and that people could stumble on us by flipping through the dial. That was hard for us to leave, because where we went is an internet-based network. And those of us who grew up in Arizona know the name Dave Pratt. He was a kind of one of these wild man morning talk shows. He's the mayor. They call him the mayor. And back in the 80s, I suppose, is when it was. But he now is a very serious businessman. He's got his own network with a gajillion shows, and we are one of his shows. And so now we can't be found on the AM FM dial. People have to really seek us out to find us on the internet. But we have a worldwide reach. And it is such a kick for me when I'm looking at our analytics and I see, you know, oh, last month, like 500 people in, you know, I don't know, pick a country, England or Switzerland or Sweden. Maybe that's how they found us, the Swedish press, are listening to our show. And it's like, what brought that? Like, what was the attraction? And was it the guest? Maybe one of the guests, because we're an an interview-based show. So maybe one of our guests has a big following there, and that's what made people tune in. But whatever it is, it makes me realize that people are hungry for what we enjoy, what we take for granted here in the United States, the freedoms. Our Constitution is unique to any other place and any other time in history on this globe. And when I can see evidence that people are hungry for it, it fuels me, fills my tank. And so somewhere in there, I think when we were on the AM station, we started at 1 hour, we went to 2 hours, we've stayed at 2 hours, and now we're getting ready to start doing more of a video-based. It's going to be the same show, but we're going to film it. It'll be on video as well as audio, and I'm excited for that. Although it's going to be all about makeup and lighting, because you know, you can get in front of a microphone in a radio studio with just your hair up in a ball cap, and you know, when you turn on the lights and it's video, it's a little bit different animal.
Well, and that'll get you more reach, though, going onto the YouTube. I'm assuming you can get on a gun streamer, and then people that are just browsing video side can see it where they might not be listening podcasts. You went from radio. Is that the, like, let's say, radio structure of having to pay for your time and then having to come up with sponsors and that end of it? And then with the podcast side, I'm guessing that's relieved or gone?
So always, ever since we've begun, we have saved all of our shows and posted them on our website. And so in that way, it is very podcast-like. And I like to say on the show that you can go there and go to gunfreedomradio.com, click the on-demand tab, and binge listen to your heart's content. All of the shows we have posted there. And so in that way, there is a podcast component because they're all saved. And then I like to say, if you want to put a face with a voice, click on the guest tab, and you'll see photos and bio and links to all of the guests that we've ever had on, and that it's really a great resource for the who's who of who's helping us in our endeavors to advocate for the Second Amendment and the Constitution and our gun rights. But so that will continue. That will always be the case, that anything that we do will be found in that one place. But of course, we also do share, even the audio shows that we've done so far, I don't even know what title she should have for this. Our daughter, Cassie Todd Jameson, she wears, I think, more hats than Dan and I do, because she's our social media manager. She is, you know, the millennial of the group. And so every time there's something that's digitally related, all eyes go whoopoosh and look right at her and say, how do we do this thing that we're dreaming up? And so she'll take our shows and do something to make them a video platform, a video format, and then put those on like YouTube and Gunstreamer. And there's always more work to do than time to do it. And so I'm sure she's far behind on those. But so we've always done that. But those videos are really just like logos that flash across the screen, where this new thing that we're going to be doing, it'll actually, you know, the camera will see Dan and I interacting with one another, and the guests that can come on that have maybe a Skype capability or something like that, you'll see them speaking in real time. So that'll be really the main difference.
Right on. So I'm going to take a second. I'm screen sharing now. They're gunfreedomradio.com website, and this is an excellent resource. I mean, I've seen lots of people's podcasts before, and not only do you have the shows easy to get to, just click on the on-demand tab there, and all the shows are in chronological order. You click on one, and it's a 2-hour show. So again, she's glossing over the fact that she has a 2-hour show with Dan every week, and it's a 2-hour show. So lots of guests. My only complaint is that they're not long enough segments, but that's sort of a catch-22 because you're able to put 8 or whatever guests on. It's a monumental task, especially when you consider not only the interview everybody and have good interviews, but then you click on somebody. I'm going to click on Carrie here, and it'll have her bio, and then, well, I picked a bad one, but it'll have links to every one of their social media things. So I'm going to click back to somebody else who I might know. This one, who do we know in here? Let's go to Yuta. And again, all his stuff, his website, his store, if he's got one, all the different podcasts he's been on with you. Just an excellent resource, all their social media links. And this is inspiration. This is not only an excellent resource for anybody who might, like you say, in any country, just be looking for information about Second Amendment advocates, authors, researchers. You know, you've had people on from the industry. Gives them the quick bio and everything, which is concise and easy to see on any platform. Gets you right to their information. I mean, what an awesome resource. So anybody that's creating content, I encourage you to check out their website and emulate what they're doing over there. This is awesome. And again, this resource by itself is incredible. So this is a valuable piece. I'm really glad that you're doing this.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It is, I mean, I am chief bottle washer and cat herder for all of that. So it is a ton of work, but I love it. I'll sit there and be building somebody's guest page and be thinking to myself, how lucky am I that I get to call these people my friends? And if they aren't with our first interview, you know, by the time we see each other at the next event or something, we are genuinely friends. We're genuinely pals. And that is a testimony to the quality of people that that make up this thing we call the Second Amendment community or the firearms community or industry, that people are approachable. It is a real outlier, a real bizarre instance if I run into somebody or interact with somebody that has like a big ego. Everybody is just excited about what they know, what they do. They're eager to share. They're just down to earth, normal people. And I can't imagine any other industry that I would have, you know, been this startup show 4 years ago and had the open doors that I've experienced in this industry. The very first interview that I ever did was with Ken Blanchard, Black Man with a Gun. I mean, he's legendary, right?
The Godfather, yep.
Yeah, he didn't know me from anybody because he shouldn't have. I was nobody. I am nobody. And I reached out to him on Facebook, I think it was, Facebook Messenger or something. And I just explained to him I had a brand new show and would he be my guest? And he instantly said yes. And then I read his book like a mad woman, you know, so that I would know exactly, you know, what we were going to talk about and all that kind of thing. I learned a ton from his book, by the way. If you haven't read it, read it. It talks a lot about the history of gun control, that so much stuff that I hadn't known before I'd read it. And then when I met him in person for the first time, I went up to him to shake his hand. I said, Mr. Blanchard, you are not going to remember who I am, but I am Cheryl Todd. And he said my name in unison with me. And I said, oh my goodness, thank you for remembering me. And he said, oh, absolutely. And I said, I have to ask you, when I reached out to you, you know, I could have been terrible on the air. You know, it could have really gone south. And I just appreciate you so much that you said yes, but what on earth made you say yes? And I love his answer. He said, spirit recognizes spirit. And I just thought, man, what a gentleman, what a tremendous human being. and just always so willing to help teach others and lift others up, and use whatever influence and status he has for the benefit of others. And I want to honor that and emulate that at every moment.
That's a good one to emphasize there with some silence. And now I'm going to ask kind of a palate cleanser question from Artisan Tony, a friend from Chattanooga, Tennessee. What's your favorite 2A nonprofit? Who do you support?
Oh my gosh, how do I have a favorite? Well, I am very involved with several. I'm on the board of some, and I am a delegate of the DC project. And because we are still in our infancy, we are like 3 years old, I think, the DC project. It is 50 women, one from each state. And we gather together once a year in Washington, D.C. We make appointments with our individual legislators and representatives, and we go and just sit down and talk with them. And we're not lobbyists. We're not there to be angry and ask for anything. We're there to form relationships. We're there to help them see the face of the Second Amendment that so many people don't even know exists. And that is, the female, we women, we moms, we grandmas. And we break into groups. And so I think it was last year, might have been the year before. So I'm Arizona. I was with the delegate, the young lady from New York, with another young lady from Connecticut, and one other person. I forget where she was from. So they were able to come into the offices, the representative's offices of Arizona. So here's the people from New York who have like no rights left. And I'm interacting with my representatives in, such a way that, that we all get it. We get to be treated, this is what I say, we get to be treated like adults in Arizona. Not because of some magic wand, but because we have worked hard for it. We stay diligent about it. And so then I go into the office with my New York delegate and interact with her representative. And really, she's the constituent, so I don't really have a place, but they usually end up asking each of us, something about ourselves because they're polite, they're human beings. And while I was in the New York office, he had said something like, it is just not palatable to our law enforcement for the citizens to just walk around with firearms. And of course, in my brain, I'm like freaking out. I'm thinking to myself, I have read the Constitution and nowhere in there does it say anything about it has to be palatable, right? For law enforcement or anybody else, for me to be able to protect myself and my family. And, I'm a grown adult. I don't ask for permission to protect myself and my family, but I understand their culture is different, and I'm a guest here. So what I said out loud was that I totally understand that it's a different culture, and I can appreciate that it seems odd to them to think about that idea. But I invited him to please look at Arizona as a real-time, real-life experiment playing out every single day, where we have constitutional carry. We don't need anyone's permission to own a piece of equipment that we want to own. Training is not mandatory, yet we have a very brisk and engaged training and education community. People don't have to have a concealed carry, yet in our store we encourage everybody to go get one for the training and education. Many, many people do it on their own without being told they have to. More people will. And, that the police are not confused when they show up at a crime scene and they're not shooting the wrong people, and citizens are not accidentally shooting each other. And it's not like instantly this person in New York had a complete paradigm change, right? But for that moment, I could see in his eyes he was struggling with a lot of cognitive dissonance that, yeah, oh yeah, huh. But, you know, he's got to stick with the party line because he was a Democrat, you know. But that's what we're there to do. We're there to avail ourselves also to the people that represent us so that they can truly represent us. We avail ourselves to them. You know, if you're getting ready to make a speech, please reach out to one of us so that you're not saying ridiculous things on a camera about 30 magazine clips that, you know, you've all heard the nonsense that sometimes comes out of politicians' mouths, and then citizens just mindlessly repeat. But if I had to pick one that I feel like I wasn't, how do I want to say it? When I first heard about the DC project, Diana Muller, the creator, she is a 22-year police veteran out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and she just had that moment where she had gone to DC and she was frustrated by being vilified as a gun owner, because for 22 years she used a gun on the job, and now she's a competitive shooter. She's the team captain for 3-gun, Benelli 3-gun. And as you know, for a competitive shooter, she's vilified on the news. And so she thought to herself, man, what if I could go to every single one of these offices? And then she said, but I'm only one person. And a lot of times we go, I'm only one person, so therefore, you know, I can't do anything, and people just quit. And she didn't. She said, well, I'm only one person, but what if I reach out to 49 other women who are only one person, one from each state, and we just do this thing and see what happens? So because I love that can-do spirit, if I had to pick one for right now, the DC project is the one that I would pick.
And that was an unfair question because there's no universe where you have to pick just one, but that was, you have to pick one. And I think that's awesome. It's a boots on the ground. And so, like you just said, I mean, so many people say, what can I do? Well, individuals can do stuff, and you guys are doing it. And that's an awesome resource, like you said, for a representative to know, you know, have the phone number, that have met someone who is an actual constituent who knows and is willing to offer insight. That's a resource that you're providing them that, you know, hopefully they'll cherish and that we can all will all benefit from.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Thank you.
Now, people are asking, you mentioned you were on the board of a few organizations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on the board of the ASRPA, that's the Arizona State Rifle and Pistol Association. I'm their media liaison, and they are the state arm of the NRA. And so how they enact that, a lot of people don't even ever think or remember that the NRA is huge for training, for firearms education, for, you know, training children with the Eddie Eagle program and all of that sort of thing. And so the ASRPA has the junior high power team, and just tons and tons of getting people out on the range, inviting brand new people out and doing it safely so that everybody can just have fun and enjoy the sport and learn more about our Constitution. I am on the board of the foundation portion of the AZCDL. That's the Arizona Citizens Defense League. So that's their 501c3, and I just joined that board, and that'll be sort of the educational arm, the fundraising arm for firearms education. But their 501c4, they are the guard dogs in the court and the watchmen on the wall. And so they, in Arizona, are really, for me, I credit them for us having the freedoms and being able to protect and preserve the freedoms that we have here. They were the ones that were really behind us getting constitutional carry. And because there was a time when we didn't have to have concealed carry license, and then we did. And then they came in and made it where we didn't again. And I remember people just, oh my gosh, the teeth gnashing and the ashes throwing on our heads. Oh, there's going to be blood in the streets and everybody, it's going to be like the OK Corral. And guess what? It has not at all been that way.
July 30th, 2010. So going on 9 years, there's no blood in the streets. And like you say, we're a daily example to the rest of the country in 11 other states or 14 other states now. We've got about 3 more on board to come on. And yeah. And the Citizens Defense League was 5 guys, 4 of them stuck around. They met, I like to say, at a Waffle House up on, it's not a Waffle House, I keep saying Waffle House, but they met at the restaurant on Ray Road or something and sat down and decided to do something. And a couple of years later, we had constitutional carry in here in Arizona, and they're still rocking and rolling.
And 15,000 members they have now. And that's because 4 guys got together, and instead of saying, well, I'm just one guy, I'm just one guy, I'm just one guy, they all got together and said, well, let's see what we can do when we join together.
Started going to gun shows, hanging out at ranges once in a while, putting out some pieces of paper at gun shops, and now we have an annual meeting and we pass laws, and like you say, there are teeth.
Absolutely. And so I'm not on the board of this organization, but the Second Amendment Foundation, SAF.org, just tremendous people. They put on the Gun Rights Policy Conference every year, and it'll be here in Arizona this year in, I think, September, if I'm remembering the date right.
I don't think we get, but I'm guessing the 27th, because I'm told it's like the last full weekend in September, but that's, we haven't had an official date yet, have we?
I don't think so. Checked out their website, but it is free. I mean, that is my favorite price ever, right? Free. And it's, what is it, a day and a half long of just the best, most incredible speakers that come from all over the country to kind of tune us in and tap us into what the last year has been and what the coming year challenges are going to be. And I didn't fully understand what all this red flag law stuff was going to be until I heard several of the speakers this past year at Gun Rights Policy in Chicago. Yes, we had it in Chicago. And so this year coming, what I anticipate is that we're really going to be getting a lot of motivation that it's going to take each individual person being active, voting, talking to our neighbors, influencing whatever our sphere of influence is to help people understand, especially here in Arizona, we're already purple, I think. I hate to say it, you know?
Yep, we're not the bastion people like to think we are. I mean, Nevada isn't. We're all at the mercy of change.
And we have this huge influx of new people coming in and new industries coming in, and it's a great thing, but not everybody thinks with the freedom, liberty, mindedness that we have fought so hard to keep. And, you know, people, a lot of times people are fleeing California and they come over here and do the exact same stuff to create the exact same communities and laws and taxes that they're fleeing from. And they just have this disconnect somehow. And so if we aren't interacting with people in a constructive way, not yelling at them, not calling them names, not, you know, being combative, but being ambassadors and drawing them into helping them understand why freedom and liberty are our responsibility, really, to pass that baton on to the next generation. If we aren't doing that, then we kind of deserve what we get, right?
We're doing it. So we're reaching the hour, and you've got an appointment, so we're gonna have to cut it short. But I would like to have you back at some point, because I would like to get into some of the hows, because you have an incredible amount of stuff, and it'd be interesting to pick your brain on how you actually accomplish all that. We've talked a little bit about why, but I'd like to give you an opportunity to get into the why with some actual time. So as we wrap up here, is there, or what are the best ways for people to get a hold of you, or to follow up, or to contact you, or to participate in your projects?
Absolutely. And again, thank you so much for this time. This is really just a kick for me to be able to just spend this time with you and kind of mentally unpack some of this stuff, you know. Usually I'm the one asking the questions, so it's kind of fun to be on the receiving end. But people can always reach me through the website at gunfreedomradio.com. There's a contact us tab there. If you just want to write down the email, my direct email address is my name, Cheryl, Cheryl, at gunfreedomradio.com. And I'd love for everybody to visit our gun shop website, azfirearms.com. We have everything you can imagine because Dan, my husband Dan, this is the funny thing, is that he thinks he's got me fooled, right? He thinks that I don't know that just because we have a business name that it's not really the Danny Todd collection, but it is. It's really, his hobby that has completely outgrown our lives. And so he loves what he does. He has a real talent for being able to keep our shelves stocked with just the coolest stuff. There's the brand new cutting edge stuff, but there's also vintage military stuff. We even have a Zippo lighter that is a firearm. We have a ring gun. We have a flashlight gun. There's a pocket watch that is a gun. And then, of course, the thing that we always like to joke with each other about is our cannons. We have not only one World War II 105 howitzer cannon, but we have two because, we have to have his and hers. And those are something we acquired really, because we want to preserve history. But also, we've rented them out to Hollywood a time or two, and they appeared in the Batman versus Superman movie, which I know it's not the best one of the series. I get it, but it's kind of cool that our cannons are in that movie.
Very cool.
And then, of course, our auctions, there's always something cool to be found in those, and that's potofgoldestate.com. And really, I like for people to interact with me as much as they can because I don't want to get caught up in my own thoughts. I know what I'm thinking. I like to know what other people are thinking. What topics are you interested in? If there's something on my show that you feel like, you know what, you didn't quite hit the direction I hoped you'd gone. It'll give me an idea for how to further explore it. Maybe I misstated something or took a misstep. I'm totally good with hearing about that in a respectful way, right? Like I said, nobody likes to be hit over the head. But keep the conversation going. Please go to our social media, Instagram. All three of our businesses by name are on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. And then I have a Facebook personality page that is Cheryl Todd GFR. And I'm trying to really build that up because my personal page, the older my granddaughter gets, she's 4.5 now, the more nervous my daughter gets. And she's like, Mom, that needs to be for family. You're posting all the pictures of the grandbaby, and that's fun. But, that can be unsafe in today's world. And so I really need to start driving more people that don't really need to see pictures of my granddaughter to my Cheryl Todd GFR Facebook page. So please try to connect with me there. I'm very interactive on there. I spend way too much time on social media. But really, that's how we connect with each other these days. And that's how we build relationships. And please see me there. Talk to me there.
Right on. Lots of comments coming in. So if we can schedule a time to meet again, we'll address a lot of these questions that have been coming up that are just too open to jump into at the end here. Thanks again for joining. One real quick question people asked about the auctions. They're online, correct? People can bid online and participate wherever they are?
Absolutely. And 99% of the stuff we sell is small and shippable. So we do sell some furniture, cars, boats, like I said, which is, not shippable. I mean, you could, but who wants to pay the money? But yes, bidding is open online up until an hour before the live portion of the auction. And we may someday go to where you can bid live in real time, but that just invites a ton of gremlins that we're not quite ready to deal with, because have an internet freeze or something and somebody gets shut out of their bid, and it's just easier if all the online bids come in as a proxy bid, and then we have a proxy bidder who is actually Dan, my husband, and he will act in your behalf against the live in-house bidders. And whoever has the high bid at the time that the gavel drops, sold, is the one who gets it. And we send out emails to our online bidders and then arrange for shipping. And it's just really fun, honestly. And if you're local enough to come in-house, it's like Old Home Week. We have free birthday cake and homemade cookies baking in the oven. And we've had, people that have lifelong friendships that have met because they came to auction, and it's just a lot of fun. We're really family. We're a family business, and so I think that just kind of permeates everything we do.
Sounds cool. We've done a couple of, we've participated, watched a couple of auctions. The J.M. Davis Museum auctioned off a bunch of guns recently, and we all went live and kind of watched.
Fun.
I guess, monitored the auction as it was happening. So maybe we can work out something to do something live someday.
That is very cool.
And then lastly, there's a couple of people on the YouTube side that are asking your opinion on this final question: is a hot dog a sandwich?
Okay, it's these cutting edge things that really make a difference. So there's bread, but it's not two pieces of bread. It is one piece that is folded over, right? And then
Correct.
there is the meat filling. So that's a tough one, but yeah, I think I'm going to go with yes. I think it is sandwich-esque enough that we could call it a sandwich. Did I just make friends or enemies?
Well, maybe half and half, but let's assume that she's getting busy and tired. It's been a long day, not thinking clearly. So you made a lot of people happy, but we'll keep working on Cheryl, and we'll see if we can get some fat.
I love it. Oh my gosh. And we can also debate crunchy or smooth peanut butter. Huh? Talk amongst yourselves. We will revisit it the next time I'm on.
Right on. All right. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great evening.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Now, we don't have to jump out. I didn't talk to you beforehand, but I'm going to end it with Charles is here, ending here for us, and then I'll hit the button, but we can stay here and chat for a second.
All right.
Guys and gals of gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching gunwebsites.com.